Hey, what's up everyone? How we all doing? Back with another video.
Hello.
Yeah, we took a few days away from like doing Oversimplified just to put some Family Guy in, a bit more chilled out stuff.
Yeah. But I'm ready to learn now. I've got my specs on.
Got your specs on.
Feeling intelligent.
Got your Rockstar as well.
Yeah, I've got my brain juice. I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a half an hour video as it is, so we'll try not to talk too much, but, you know, we also will comment from time to time.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn about this.
You ever covered this in school?
No.
Neither did we. Before I watched the first Oversimplified video, between that and Red Dead Redemption, that's all I know from the Civil War.
Really? So Red Dead Redemption set in the Civil War?
Slightly after, but there's a lot of callbacks to it, and
I didn't know that.
I don't know how much is factual, to be fair, though.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll get straight into it, guys, and like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Let's go.
Oversimplified merch today, along with a very honest new character pin. Link in the description down below. Okay, Mrs. Lincoln, this is it. One last push, and we're done.
Imagine.
9 months and 4 days ago, my father brought forth upon my mother himself, and gave to her a child, conceived in a shack in Kentucky, and dedicated to the proposition that I will drink num-nums from a bottle and do little poo-poos in my pantses for the next 2 to 3 years.
An
Now,
orator from the get-go.
Oh yeah.
I bet some famous people was conceived in
am not
mad
touching
places. Well, he just said he was conceived in a
Grew
shack.
up with a relatively poor family in Kentucky, eventually moving to Indiana, and finally Illinois. He read a lot of books, worked a lot of jobs, wrote some questionable poetry, and finally entered the law profession. Despite being self-taught, he turned out to be a pretty clever and astute lawyer. In one case, a guy claimed he witnessed a murder at night, and Lincoln was like, "How could you have seen anything in the dark? There was a bright full moon." A what?
I'm sorry, why is Batman on the wall?
I didn't notice that.
Night. And Lincoln was like, "How could you have seen anything in the dark? There was a bright full moon." A what? A bright full moon. Can you say that again, please? There was a bright full moon. A dim half moon? No, a bright full moon. That's funny, because according to this almanac, there was a dim half moon that night, which makes you a liar. Well,
if you could tell
well, I got a
that.
bright full moon for y'all right here. Now that's what I call a rebuttal.
Oh, God.
Lincoln and his cheekbones weren't only interested in
He has
power.
some mad cheekbones, in it.
He really does.
Yeah, he's like Chris Brown.
He also dabbled in the world of politics,
You're
serving
obsessed.
as a legislator in both local and national assemblies. And what a time it was. Not even 100 years after the Founding Fathers wrote all men are created equal, politicians were already asking, yeah, but what does that mean exactly? It means all men. Yeah, but what does that mean exactly? And not just that. States' rights versus the federal government. What are the executive powers of the president? Is cereal a soup? The Founding Fathers left some of these questions perhaps a little too open to interpretation. And the biggest question of them all was slavery, an ugly mark on what should have been a revolutionary new nation based on liberty and democracy. Thomas Jefferson had written a condemnation of slavery in the Declaration of Independence, but out of fear of losing Southern states' support, it was removed. Hey guys, do you think leaving this a little vague will create any unforeseen problems in the future? Cannonball! And those unforeseen problems were now beginning to rear their ugly heads. As the nation developed, the North and the South developed along two very different lines, and two very different cultural identities emerged. Northern cities began rapidly industrializing, while the southern climate allowed for large plantations of labor-intensive crops. As a result, one half of the country didn't rely on slaves, while the other half had become economically dependent on them.
How is that?
Well, he just said, like, these ones started to
Yes, sorry.
create factories and the climate down here.
Yeah.
But people told me in the comments, and it doesn't really touch on this, that even though these had the slave states, a lot of the stuff that they made were sold to the North.
So they were still getting the...
Yeah, the merch of it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like the whole, like, China makes all that stuff in, like, really poor conditions. Obviously,
Yeah.
not as bad as slaves, but
No.
he doesn't really talk about that in this, and
Yeah.
it's weird that he doesn't.
Yeah. I already prefer this style to that. Who was the other one by?
Extra credit.
Yeah, I already prefer this.
It's very, it's easier to watch, isn't it?
Yeah.
In 1793, Eli Whitney's cotton gin caused the slave trade in the South to explode. While in the North, a growing abolitionist movement was taking root, a general mistrust began to develop between the North and the South. As Northerners felt the South were hell-bent on expanding slavery, and fear spread throughout the South that the North wanted to take their slaves away. In 1819, there were 11 free states and 11 slave states. A perfect balance. A happy medium. A harmonious...
I wasn't laughing at the slaves, I was laughing at the way they spelled take.
Yeah, I know.
Hey guys, nice to meet you. I'm Missouri, and I would like to become the 23rd state. Hey buddy, welcome to the nation. We'll be happy to accept you as a free state. Oh no, you don't. You're trying to get one over on us. Missouri's going to be a slave state. Okay, listen, why don't we just ask Missouri what it wants to be, and we slave state? Well, then, allow me to introduce to you the newest, freshest state on the scene, Maine. Hey, you can't do that, and you can't have any more slave states above this line. What? The issue of slavery is solved, and it will never come up again. A few years later, it came up again.
You know, I just thought, and maybe people in the comments could help me out, what were the old state names? Like, think about how cut up this is today in modern day America. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what was the state called? Maybe we'll talk about it later on during the video. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is it just like one state, say, I don't know, Dakota, and then
And
like it
then
got
it
carved
was-
up and then it become North Dakota, South Dakota?
Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Sorry, I'm using my finger. I should be using the mouse, but yeah.
America
Let us know.
expanded westward. Each new state or territory that was added threatened to upend the delicate balance between the slave and free states. If one faction managed to outnumber the other, it could gain an easy majority and force its own ideals on the opposing side, leaving a huge portion of the population feeling spiteful and oppressed. For a while, compromises kicked the can down the road and kept the volatile balance in check, as new free and slave states were roughly added in pairs. But then one loudmouth state just had to barge in and ruin everything as usual. The addition of Texas saw the United States enter into a war with Mexico, which they won, gaining a huge amount of land out west and creating even more problems.
I would like to see a video. I know we keep pausing now, I'll try to stop, but I would like to see a video. It's like, what if America never beat Mexico?
Yeah.
Like, if this was still modern day America and this remained Mexico, how different the world would be.
Would it be more... I mean, I know it's a different country anyway, but would there be more separation with it?
I don't know. Well, just imagine all the things that are here when it's America. Obviously, you got Hollywood, you got Vegas, Nevada.
Oh, right. No, yeah, sorry. I didn't realise that was all there.
Yeah. So, obviously, this is LA, this is
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Vegas. Vegas, actually, I thought was a bit more. I don't
They
know.
wouldn't exist, would they?
Oh yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, what would the world look like? Because America affects the world, don't it? So
Yeah.
like,
Which they won, gaining a huge amount of land out west and creating even more problems. Hey guys, nice to meet you. I'm California, and I would like to become the 31st state. Hey buddy, welcome to the nation. We'll be happy to accept you as a southern slave state. Oh no, you don't. You're trying to get one over on us. California's gonna be a free state. Okay, listen, why don't we just ask California what it wants to be, and we can free state? Well, then, allow me to introduce to you the territories of New Mexico and Utah, able to freely vote for slavery themselves. Hey, you can't do that! And we can enter Northern Territory anytime we want to recapture escaped slaves. What? The issue of slavery is solved, and it will never come up
Forgot about
again. A few years later,
When they're adding in these new states, do they just like make it up then? Like, this bit of land is going to be this and this now, and then we can make it slave or not slave.
well, obviously in the video it's oversimplified,
Yeah.
but I imagine it would have took someone to kind of get up and just draw a line and be like, well, no, we're cutting it here, and this is going to be ours, and
yeah.
you know, that kind of brash mentality is probably why
Yeah.
tensions were rising.
it came up
Brash mentality.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
don't mind if I do.
solved, and it will never come up again. A few years later, it came up again. In 1854, a Democratic senator from Illinois wanted to build a really cool choo-choo train here and proposed that the territories of Kansas and Nebraska be created open to slavery, even though they were clearly above the Missouri Compromise line. Obviously, the northern states were like, hell no. But the southern Democrats who controlled Congress at the time were like, well, if you love liberty and democracy so much, then you should let them vote on whether slavery should be legal or not. And so it was. Huge numbers of pro- and anti-slavery settlers rushed to Kansas to sway the vote in their favor. And while they were all there, they began to beat the crap out of each other. One of those settlers was a man named John Brown, a former businessman who failed at just about everything he tried and went arguably insane. He was a radical abolitionist
Oh,
dedicated
yeah.
much of his life to the
I remember.
Underground Railroad and freeing slaves. One night, in revenge for an earlier raid by pro-slavery forces, he and his sons killed a number of pro-slavery settlers in the territory, helping to kickstart years of violence known as Bleeding Kansas. Kansas and Nebraska both eventually voted in favor of outlawing slavery. But from here, the tension began to grow at a rapid pace. In 1852, author Harriet Beecher Stowe penned Uncle Tom's Cabin, a best-selling novel that exposed the terrible cruelty of slavery to the world. Oh, how awful.
And I'm probably right in saying that's where like the insult comes from. You know, like when black people call other black people an Uncle Tom.
Oh yeah.
Or like a bootlicker. Yeah, like is that where that comes from? I'm just going to quickly check something. Alright, yeah. That must be where it comes from, innit? I've never actually known where that word come from.
I forgot that was even like I wouldn't have thought of that.
Well, it's only fresh in my head because I saw someone call someone out it on Facebook not too long ago, and I was like, damn, like people still use that term. But let me know, is that where the slur comes from?
A best-selling novel that exposed the terrible cruelty of slavery to the world. Oh, how awful. How morally corrupt a nation must be to allow such things to happen. Your Majesty, what should we do about all the starving children working in the coal mines? Nothing! In 1854, the Republican Party was formed, and Abraham Lincoln emerged as a leading figure. Southern Democrats viewed the new Republican Party with mistrust, believing it to be radical and abolitionist. In 1856, a politician named Charles Sumner gave a speech in Congress, calling out slave-owning Democrats with fiery language. If slavery was a woman, she'd be an ugly one. And the senator from South Carolina would like to boink her. Representative Brooks, do you have a rebuttal? Oh, I have a rebuttal, all right. Yeah, here's a rebuttal for you. Oh, come on. Surely this isn't allowed. I don't know. I'll have to consult the rulebook. I can't find anything about hating a political opponent, but it says here I'm not allowed to wear a woman's underwear. Uh-oh. The use of the violence on the Senate floor took the nation by storm. Southern slave owners sent Representative Brooks new canes to replace his now broken one. And on the floors of Congress, politicians carried weapons in self-defense, which is never a good sign. In 1857, the Supreme Court ruled in the Dred Scott case that all people of African descent, slave or free, could not be citizens, and therefore could not sue for their own freedom under any circumstances, undoing years of progress with the strike of a gavel.
Sorry, I was listening.
Slave or free could not be citizens. Dred Scott case that all people of African descent, slave or free, could not be citizens, and therefore could not sue for their own freedom under any circumstances, undoing years of progress with the strike of a gavel. Now, within all this bitter debate over slavery, there were many nuances: North versus South, Republican versus Democrat, states versus the federal government. But let's strip all of that away. For 4 million individuals living in America, this wasn't about political intrigue or party alignment. It was about the basic human right to be free. Men, women, and children were stolen from their homelands and brought to the American continent, where for generations they were considered to be property, forced to live in poverty, and work from sunrise to sunset. Plantation overseers did whatever they felt was necessary to get the most out of their slaves. Punishments were often barbaric. Families were regularly separated, and parents could often only watch as their children were auctioned off, never to be seen again. Thousands of slaves took the treacherous risk of running away, and abolitionists in the North helped many escape via the Underground Railroad as bounty hunters entered the North to chase them down. Leading figures within the abolitionist movement included many significant free black men and women. But it's important to note that for many of the anti-slavery white individuals in the North, opposition to slavery was often an economic issue, not a moral one, as many worried large plantations would take their lands and livelihoods away. Abraham Lincoln...
I mean, you can see how it gets complicated then, where it's like, even the people, say you was an African American back then, even the people that are on your side aren't on your side because...
They're not... Okay, don't care about you.
Yeah, it's still...
They care about how it affects them.
It's still about them.
Yeah.
And that'd be frustrating, and it's kind of like picky poison, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as someone, people say in the comments that, like, even though we're all against it, we're still purchasing clothing and, produce.
It's still going on, obviously.
Yeah.
knew that slavery was a moral evil, and he regularly spoke out against it in powerful speeches that helped him rise through the ranks of the new Republican Party. He lamented at the hypocrisy of a great American nation meant to stand as a shining beacon of freedom, while also enslaving 4 million men, women, and children. He most famously declared in 1858 that a house divided against itself cannot stand, that one day slavery in America would end. However, even Lincoln was cautious in his opposition. He didn't want to outlaw it entirely, but simply prevent its expansion, so that given enough time, he believed it would naturally die out. Thankfully, history would force his hand. In October 1859, one abolitionist decided he'd try to single-handedly take down slavery by force. Who would be crazy enough to even attempt such a thing? It's our good friend, John Brown. He planned to seize on...
It reminds me of Mental Matt.
Mental? Wait, who's Mental Matt?
Mental Matty from the kitchen.
Oh yeah, for those that you don't know who Runabout, it's one of the contestants at a house kitchen. Just kind of looks like that, and he just
goes mental.
Yeah, he's just mental.
Out of Harper's Ferry, freed the slaves there, and continued south, inciting a major slave uprising along the way. A noble cause, a bad plan, and a terrible execution. Brown's men took the armory and some hostages, but were quickly surrounded by one Robert E. Lee and his U.S. Marines. Brown was captured, and a couple of months later, he was executed for treason. Northerners sympathized with Brown, but Southerners were like, you see this? They're coming for us. Soon, there'll be 1 million John Browns.
Is that
Colonel Sanders? 1 million John Browns?
No, it does look like Colonel Sanders, though. Like, suspiciously.
I didn't know he was such an important historic figure.
1 million John Browns? What on earth are you thinking about? A John Brown farm? Yeah, me too. To make matters worse, new northern free states meant now the southern states really were outnumbered, and they were beginning to feel bitterly spiteful and oppressed. Further fear began to spread in the South when news broke that a relatively unknown figure had just secured the Republican Party nomination for president. Abraham Lincoln, mostly well-liked among anti-slavery Northerners, had made some of the most powerfully worded speeches against slavery of any politician at the time. And now, there was a chance that he and his cheat notes could become president. For the South, that would be too much. In the 1860 election, Lincoln's name didn't even appear on the ballot in 10 southern states, but much to their horror, when the final result...
John Bell, Anchorage, Southern Democrat, Northern Democrat. It's weird, like, it's kind of, like the two-party system, but here, as far as you go back in history, it's always been Labour versus Conservative, and then it's always been Democrat versus Republican.
Yeah.
Even though you got a constitutional union there.
Came in, Lincoln had won by an electoral college landslide. Lincoln himself tried to calm their fear. How many times do I have to tell you, I'm not going to take away your slaves? Yeah, right, Honest Abe. We've had enough of you Northerners. We're going to go form our own country. You can't do that. Why not? Well, if you had won the election, would it be okay for us to leave? Of course not. Well, why not? Because that's not how victim mentality works. Many states felt that when they joined the Union, they always withheld the right to leave it whenever they pleased. Many people living in 19th century America often felt more loyalty to their state than to the nation. And now, with the South feeling like it had lost its voice in the federal government, they were out of here. South Carolina was the first to go, and over a period of 6 months, one by one, 11 slave states officially seceded from the Union, with just 4 contested border states opting to remain. The seceding states issued a number of official documents justifying their secession. South Carolina proclaimed that it was northern states' hostility to slavery that rendered the federal government illegitimate. Mississippi declared that their position was thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, and in a speech, the Confederate...
Imagine actually writing that. Like, we identify with slavery. Like,
I know.
Slavery is a big part of who we are. That's
fucked up.
Different times.
Thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, and in a speech, the Confederate Vice President stated that the new Confederate government rested upon what he called the great truth of racial inequality. Revered American generals, such as Robert E. Lee, opted to side with their states over the Union. And with all the chaos, one New York lawyer wrote that rather than a bald eagle, America's national bird should be a debilitated chicken. And hey, I kind of like that. One man, watching the crisis unfold, knew it would be his job to solve it. Lincoln was just about to hop on a train and become the President of the United States of America. Hey man, you're hella ugly. Grow a beard or something to hide that face. Good idea.
are like makeup for men.
Yeah.
With assassination plots already underway, Lincoln had to travel to Washington, D.C. under a heavy disguise and protection. All along the way, he received stacks of threatening letters. May the hand of the devil strike you down. You are destroying this country. Damn you, every breath you take. Love from... Grandma? At his inauguration speech, Lincoln once again reiterated that, no, I do not want to take away anyone's slaves. But for Lincoln, he did want to preserve the Union. He declared secession to be nothing but an illegitimate rebellion. In your hands and not in mine, he said, is the momentous issue of civil war. You can have no conflict without being yourselves the aggressors. We are not enemies, but friends. It was clear Lincoln was ready and willing to get freaky and open up a can of Scatman John if he had to. Whether he had the support of the people, however, was in question. In the end, it was the Confederates that fired the first shot. As they seceded, the Confederate states began seizing federal U.S. property throughout the South. Off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina, was one such federal property, Fort Sumter, held by a measly, undersupplied U.S. force. The Confederate militia there demanded that the force surrender, a request which was quickly denied, and any remaining hope for a peaceful solution to the secession crisis probably then died when the Confederates did this.
The Confederates of the South.
Yeah.
Solution to the secession crisis probably then died when the Confederates did this. The Battle of Fort Sumter is considered to be the beginning of the American Civil War. Many of the Confederates there also considered it to be the end of the American Civil War. They hoped Old Abe would just sigh and say, okay, you win. Unfortunately for them, Lincoln actually said, you're about to get a roundhouse to the face. Lincoln sent out the call for 75,000
Oh my god. What film is that from?
The Last Samurai. That?
No, I think...
The lanterns.
The
You're talking about this right here?
Yeah.
The lanterns?
Yeah.
The Last Samurai.
From Lord of the Rings?
Oh, my next guess was going to be Kung Fu Panda, so I've...
Kung Fu Panda?
No. We haven't watched Lord of the Rings together.
It's when Gondor calls Rohan.
I've not watched it for like 10 years, babe. I'm going to have to watch it again.
Oh, well, I brought the box set, so we're fine.
And men signed up in droves, hopeful for some adventure and good old-fashioned F-U-N. In the new Confederate capital of Richmond, Virginia, Confederate President Jefferson Davis and his chieftains had also sent out the call for 100,000 men. As ever, both sides hoped for a quick end to the war.
What is up with the horse? What?
Is it over yet? No, Jimmy. It's been 1 week. Is it over now? No. How about now?
If you ask that one more time, I swear I will turn this army around and you'll all have to go back home to your wives and children.
No.
But in particular, the South knew the conflict would pose a bit of a challenge. How can we expect to win with a population of only 5 million against 22 million in the North? If you count us 4 million slaves, you'd have 9 million.
Great idea.
Hand these rifles out to them. Wait a minute. You almost had me there. The problem was that many of his top generals were getting old or being a bit too cautious. The commanding general was a man named Winfield Scott, a veteran of the Mexican-American War, and by now he was too fat to even mount a horse. Okay, chaps, we need to come up with a plan. Hey, we could wait for the Confederates to come and apologize. Maybe we should all sit in a circle and discuss our feelings. Crossing the Delaware into New Jersey worked for me. Those are all terrible ideas. And you, we're on video. Hey, I'm the greatest president in the history of this nation. Yeah, we'll see about that, dingus. Eventually.
I was gonna say, like, what?
Lincoln's generals came up with a multi-pronged strategy. First, a blockade would cut off and starve the South of supplies by sea. Secondly, taking control of the great Mississippi River would sever the South's economic artery while splitting it in two. And finally, a main Union force in the east would move south and take the Confederate capital, ending the war. Bada boom, bada bing. Skirmishes began to break out across the nation, and the Union Army in the east began to move south towards Richmond. Everything seemed to be going well until they reached Manassas, where they came upon a large Confederate force. It's almost like they were waiting for us. How did they know? As it turned out, spies in D.C. had sent a coded message to the Confederates warning of the invasion. Did you use NordVPN? What the heck is NordVPN? I'm so glad you asked.
I actually need to get NordVPN.
The internet?
What is it?
Me too.
It's basically like certain videos are banned here. Like there is an Oversimplified video which is about Hitler.
Yeah.
And we can't watch it, so I actually do need to get NordVPN.
It doesn't help you stay secure, but
It's a good investment.
It's a good investment.
NordVPN. So promo code plug.
Get it.
Secession, Fat Man, and the Union invasion into Virginia. The two sides encountered each other at Manassas, and both geared up for the first major battle of the Civil War. the First Battle of Bull Run. The Confederates rapidly brought in support via rail, and the two sides were about equal in numbers. However, they were also equally inexperienced. A large number of civilians also rode out by carriage from D.C. to picnic on the nearby hills and watch the excitement unfold. Nobody seemed to quite understand how destructive this war was going to be. The Union forces pulled the flanking maneuver to hit the Confederates on their left, and the two sides fired on each other in rows. Farm families living in the area were forced to flee the fighting, including a man named Wilmer McLean.
Sorry, that just reminded me, but I remember my nan told me once that her mum and her family, no, not her mum, but people around that time back during World War II used to go out into the fields and watch the dogfights between the Nazis and the English.
What?
Yeah, they used to go out into the fields and they'd sit there on like summer days. And but you could go out at nights as well, but obviously you couldn't see, but you could see the lights in the air and that.
Yeah.
And they used to watch the dogfights.
Did people not have like any?
Well, the people back then just had balls of steel,
what it
didn't
is.
they? But like, I don't know. But
So it's just a day out, innit?
Yeah, it's crazy, and I do actually believe it because I had a Polish teacher in school, and she said her family used to do it in Poland as well.
I suppose. I mean, they ain't got tellies, did they?
Nobody seemed to quite understand how destructive this war was going to be. The Union forces.
Sorry, they ain't got tellies.
Nobody seemed to quite understand how destructive this war was going to be. The Union forces pulled the flanking maneuver to hit the Confederates on their left, and the two sides fired on each other in rows. Farm families living in the area were forced to flee the fighting, including a man named Wilmer McLean.
Hurry up, Martha. There's a war
I
happening.
remember this
The
guy.
more you tell me to hurry up, the slower I will go.
That's me.
Yeah.
The Union force saw initial success pushing the Confederates back to Henry Hill, but one as of yet fairly unknown General Thomas Jackson had arrived, and he took a defensive position, standing firm like a stone wall, holding the Union army off, and finally sending them running back to Washington, D.C. With heavy casualties, the sobering reality of war hit both sides hard, and the North, having just lost the first major battle, had to face the serious prospect that they may not actually win this war. President Lincoln, General Jackson whipped us so hard, the Confederates are calling him Stonewall Jackson. Wait, that's why they're calling him that? Not because he looks like he ran face first into a stone wall? Apparently not. Worse yet, the North had also lost the first major battle out west, giving away control of Southwest.
I have got a question. So, is this actually the flag of the South? How come it isn't using the actual Confederate flag? Like, as much as I've talked to people about it, I still don't fully understand. Well, I do get why there's so much controversy around the Confederate flag. You know which one I'm on about?
Yeah. Like
the red and white one with the stars going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is it because if you have that flag, you de facto subscribe to, supporting slavery?
I thought it's kind of like I don't know what the word is, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but is it not like a frowned upon thing if you fly that flag?
It's definitely frowned upon, but I think people in the South believe it's part of their identity as southern states, not necessarily subscribing to the fact that they support slavery. But people in the North, or just other people in general, believe, if you have that flag, then you support slavery.
Yeah.
And
it's got a stigma attached to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, but was this actually the flag of the South at the time? Or is he just not using the Confederate flag to avoid controversy? Just let me know, please.
Missouri. All of this was terrible news for Abraham Lincoln, especially since many of his generals in cabinet already didn't have much respect for him. They felt he was incapable of running a war because he seemed a bit like your friendly old grandpa. He famously loved a long-winded story and a good pun. I've been so busy, my wife is missing me. But her aim is starting to improve. Few realized he could also be incredibly shrewd. Oh wait, you're so funny. Funny how? Funny.
Name the film.
Like, am I funny looking?
Go on, name
Do
the
I
film.
entertain you?
Yeah, go on.
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Is it the one with where were you?
Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
No, not Joe Pesci.
No, it's not. Al Pacino. No.
Fuck!
No, it's Goodfellas.
Yeah,
it's Goodfellas. Jesus Christ.
I knew it was, but I couldn't think of the name.
Yeah.
Like the pizza.
Yeah, Robert De Niro and all of that, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is it De Niro?
No, I feel like it's not De Niro
It's not.
either.
Okay, we're getting distracted.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, but it's Goodfellas. I've had a mind blank.
Oh wait, you're so funny. Funny how? Funny like I'm a clown?
Okay, the Daniel.
No, funny how? Like I'm here to amuse you? During
I want to watch that.
Viewed by some as impeachable. His administration suppressed the free media from printing articles sympathetic towards the South. Some Southern sympathizers were even arrested without a trial. Lincoln's criticizers began accusing him of being a tyrant. But to quote the man himself, "Hey, it's war, baby. What are you gonna do?" By the end of 1860, with things only looking bad for the North, abolitionists such as Frederick Douglass couldn't believe that the Union Army weren't enlisting black men. He continued to put pressure on Lincoln to make the war about emancipation. "Mr. President, it's time to make the war about emancipation." I don't want to ruffle any feathers. The feathers are already ruffled. But Lincoln, hanging on to hope for a quick end.
What's emancipation?
So like to give them the right to be like, you're with us, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But this does really make you question how much the Civil War was about slavery. You know, on the surface I can see it's about slavery, but then there's things like this where it's like, you're not really in it for like, you know, for human rights and the rights given to black people or African Americans or whatever. This is more about other stuff going on where...
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like a bit of a straw man. That's the word, the phrase I'm looking for.
Feathers. The feathers are already ruffled. But Lincoln, hanging on to hope for a quick end to the conflict, continued to fight only for the preservation of the Union. It was decided, however, that escaped slaves from the Confederacy could be held as enemy contraband, and many of these men were put to work bolstering the Union's infrastructure and supply lines. Hoping to get things moving, Lincoln made young
so bad,
McClellan the
It's
new commanding
awful.
general, and McClellan began to train up his men. He thought a lot of himself, however, and believed he was going to be the nation's great savior. And like many others, he didn't approve of the president's handling of the war. On one occasion, Lincoln went to McClellan's house to meet with him, but McClellan was late returning home.
What is that,
He kept the president
McClellan?
waiting, and when he finally got there, he just straight up went to bed. Now that's what I call disrespect. McClellan talked the talk, but could he walk the walk? No. Like Lincoln's other generals, McClellan was maddeningly cautious. "Hey man, could you move south and attack the enemy?" "What? Are you crazy?"
Oh my god, guys, I've just remembered who McClellan is. Oh, he's so incompetent. Honestly, I remember him from when I reacted the first time. He's such a fool.
Is he one of the people that frustrates you, like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
What if they have a big scary army down there? They probably do. What? Oh my gosh! McClellan worried that he did not have the numbers he needed to fight effectively. What if they have like 10,000 men? Okay, no problem. We'll get you 20,000 men. Well, what if they have 30,000 men? I'll need 40. Okay, you can have 40. Well, what if they have 50? I'll need 60. Lincoln tried, but it was all in vain. McClellan would not make a move for the rest of the year. The North's one saving grace for now was a general out west fighting Kentucky and Tennessee. General Ulysses S. Grant. Cool, collected,
This guy is
methodical, and a big fan of whiskey. His chief of staff took it upon himself to keep Grant sober. One officer said that Grant habitually wore an expression as though he were determined to drive his head through a brick wall, and he was about to do it. And that determination led him to score a number of key victories when others around him were failing. At the Battle of Fort Donelson, Grant was like, "Why does Stonewall Jackson get a cool nickname and I don't? I want a cool nickname." "Sir, the Confederates say they're ready to surrender and want to know your terms." "No terms, just unconditional surrender." Hey, unconditional surrender, Grant. That's a pretty cool nickname, right, guys? Right? Later in April 1862, the Confederates launched a sudden attack on Grant's army at Shiloh, but the determined, unconditional surrender Grant threw his lines to the rebels and sent them running. The battle resulted in the heaviest casualties in U.S. history so far.
Jesus Christ. You know, obviously as well, you just add them all up, don't you? Because they're all American at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long did the battle last? Did you say a whole day?
Sent them running. The battle resulted in the heaviest casualties in U.S. history so far, and despite his victory, Grant found himself under fire. You have to get rid of Grant. Why? Didn't he win? Yes, but he just threw his man at the enemy. Isn't that the point? Also, he's a loony drunk. Well, what does he like to drink? I believe whiskey, sir. Then send him more. Lincoln watched.
Whatever makes you happy.
Did nothing but bicker, and his generals did nothing. But then, worst of all, personal tragedy struck. Lincoln's young son, Willie, very much loved by the president, died of typhoid fever at the age of 11. Lincoln was a sensitive man and was heavily affected by the loss. His wife was inconsolable. But one of Lincoln's greatest traits, what made him such a great leader, was in the darkest of times, with composure and determination, he he kept moving forward. He knew it was his responsibility to hold himself and his family together, and by doing so, he hoped to hold the nation together. And he had had it with McClellan's inaction. Lincoln decided he was going to take control. In March 1862, Lincoln firmly ordered McClellan to once again move south towards Richmond. McClellan insisted instead they move by sea to the Virginia Peninsula and attack Richmond from the southeast. Yes, said Lincoln. Okay, anything. Lincoln held on to some of McClellan's men to defend D.C. from the nearby Stonewall.
Sorry, look at that comment, guys. I'm from Wyoming, and yes, it does exist.
Jackson wreaking havoc in the Shenandoah Valley, and he sent McClellan south. McClellan landed on the peninsula, and he began to move inland. He came up against a small Confederate army that had dug in at Yorktown. McClellan vastly outnumbered the force, but it said that Confederate General Magruder deceived McClellan by cleverly maneuvering his smaller force and making McClellan believe he faced a huge army. No, you have way more men than them. Move forward. No. McClellan sailed in for a month-long.
I don't know. Can you remember that scene? I feel like I constantly use Vikings as a reference, but it's just easy to pull.
Oh, when they run to either side.
They run to each other and it makes it look like they have a big force.
Like there's loads. Yeah.
I imagine it'd be something along them lines, but obviously, I don't know.
Way more men than them. Move forward. No. McClellan sailed in for a month-long siege, giving time for Johnston to move south from Manassas and Magruder time to retreat. When he finally entered the city and found it deserted, he declared the victory, calling his success brilliant. Then, after meeting some resistance at Williamsburg, McClellan moved to within just 20 miles of Richmond. His army was able to hear the church bells ringing in the enemy capital. You still outnumber them. Go give them hell. No. McClellan once again held back, moving slowly and defensively, and with his army split in two, the Confederates saw an opportunity to strike back. McClellan's advance was halted, and now the Confederates pulled an ace out of their sleeve. General Lee, you're up. Do you think we should evacuate Richmond? No, Mr. President, no need. General Robert E. Lee, one of the most brilliant military commanders of the time, was now in charge. One of his biggest strengths was his ability to read the mind of his enemy, and he knew McClellan was cautious and weak. After moving Stonewall Jackson south to join him, and even though he had a smaller army, Lee hit McClellan in a series of fast-paced, close-combat battles that had McClellan spooked. McClellan retreated the Union Army back again and again and again, escaping the peninsula and returning to D.C. Lee had defeated McClellan, and the campaign had failed. Well, that was a major success. A success? Tell me exactly what was successful about that. Well, we successfully retreated. You lost.
I didn't lose. I merely failed to win.
Things just kept looking worse for the North. At least their navy had seen some success, capturing a number of key port cities, notably when they steamrolled past Confederate forts to take New Orleans. And speaking of the navy, both sides had begun using ironclads. So that's pretty cool. But in the East, they still weren't having any luck. After McClellan's disastrous campaign, Lincoln briefly sent out one General John Pope to attack Northern Virginia. Hey man, just checking in. How's it going? Well, the Confederates kicked my butt at Cedar Mountain. Then they raided my camp and ran off with my money and clothes. Also, I appear to have been wedgied. He defeated Pope at yet another battle at Bull Run, in which nearby farm families once again got caught up in the fighting.
Have you noticed that, if you want to assume that the South are the bad guys here, and you probably would say that because they outright support slavery.
Yeah.
That, just like the films, the bad guys always initially seem to have the upper hand.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they have the upper hand and it looks like things aren't going to go right for the good guys. But deep down, they've got to come out of it somehow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you've got to let it play out. You've got to...
Yeah.
Battle at Bull Run, in which nearby farm families once again got caught up in the fighting.
Hurry up, Martha! There's another war out here! I'm waiting for my hair to dry!
Wilmer
Don't you look at me.
sick of war, moved his family south, where he knew the war would definitely, absolutely, never touch him again. But Lincoln had yet another problem to contend with. European powers, in particular the UK, were looking increasingly like they may intervene diplomatically on the side of the Confederates. They were missing their precious supply of southern cotton because of the Union blockade, and they wanted to see a swift conclusion to the war. The tension between America and Great Britain had been increasing, especially after Confederate diplomats were discovered on a British ship. Now, after McClellan's failure...
I tell you what, we really know how to play the bad guy, don't we? It's like, in any situation, we just seem to back the bad guy, don't we? Oh, classic.
Very what's in it for us.
Discovered on a British ship. Now, after McClellan's failure to take Richmond, the UK declared it impossible for the North to win. Lincoln needed
Upload a video every month. Upload a video every month.
Check.
That's obviously OverSimplified videos take ages to make.
The UK declared it impossible for the North to win. Lincoln needed something to prevent Europe from getting involved, and after more petitioning from abolitionists, he decided maybe the time was finally right to make the war about ending the institution he hated, slavery. If the North had a noble cause to fight for, Europe would be less likely to intervene. But Lincoln and his cabinet knew before they could declare something as radical as emancipation, they needed a victory, especially now that the Confederates were about to go on the attack. Aware that he had a limited number of men and supplies, Lee now hoped that if he could just threaten Washington, D.C. militarily, he would gain Europe's recognition and crush Northern morale in time for the midterm elections, forcing the North to negotiate. With confidence at an all-time high, for the first time, Robert E. Lee invaded the North. But on September 13th, the North finally had some luck.
Oh boy, it's my lucky day. A cigar in a field. Hey, what's this wrapped around it? Oh my god!
I cannot believe that though.
Is that what he really did?
Yeah, apparently, yeah, because I remember asking about it last time, and people in the comments were like, yeah, this actually happened.
So he wrapped his plans around a cigar?
Oh, yeah, but not only that, like, what are the chances of someone finding it? Like, look at the span that this war's been fought across. And
hey, a cigar in a field. Hey, what's this wrapped around it? Oh my gosh!
That's right, the North had discovered General Lee's battle plans wrapped around some cigars, and in them, they saw that Lee had split up his forces. McClellan headed out from D.C., and the two sides met in the Battle of Antietam, a crucial battle that would decide the course of the war. It saw the most vicious fighting to date, and still remains the single bloodiest day in American history.
That's crazy, isn't it?
No way.
That is crazy.
Fighting to date, and still remains the single bloodiest.
Is that the order as well of?
Yeah, like for me, it was crazy that more Americans died in 9/11 than they did in D-Day. That's crazy.
That is crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 2,000 Americans died on 9/11? Over 2,000? I think it might be 2,500. Which back at the time, I had no idea it was that much.
No,
I thought it was a fair few hundred.
Yeah. It's because when you compare it to how many people are in our buildings like that, but America's obviously so much bigger. And
obviously you see loads of people dying on D-Day, but bless you. There were German, British and Canadian as well, and French. But yeah, that's crazy.
In American history. But for once, the North came out victorious, and Lee was forced to retreat. He's on the run. Chase him down and finish him off. No. Was forced to retreat. He's on the run. Chase him down and finish him off. No. You know what, old buddy, old pal? You're fired. The North had won their crucial victory. Lincoln breathed a huge sigh of relief, and with that win, he was prepared to take a huge step. On September 22nd, the Emancipation Proclamation was issued. In January, all slaves held in the Confederate States would be, as far as the U.S. government was concerned, officially free. Throughout the North, free black men and women rejoiced, knowing that if the North were to win, their brothers and sisters would no longer be held in bondage. The proclamation also had the intended effect on Europe, who were not willing to oppose a pledge to end slavery.
Sorry, is that the obviously free, but were they allowed to be citizens then as well then?
Yeah, but obviously the North have declared that, so all the plantation owners, the slaves that they now own, if you continue to own slaves, it's technically illegal.
Right, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
An outraged Confederacy knew that Lincoln had given the war a new meaning. It was no longer just about the preservation of the Union. Now it was
they're illegal in the eyes of the North.
New meaning. It was no longer just about the preservation of the Union. Now it was about creating a new Union, washed clean of its original sin. A Union without slavery.
What do you think?
I enjoyed that, to be fair.
It's good, isn't it?
And it was easy to take it in. I understood it. I didn't know that the Civil War was initially over North and South slavery views. I didn't know that. But
it kind of wasn't, in a weird way, do you know what I mean? It only become about slavery just then, when he declared that. At first it was more for selfish reasons.
Yeah. But no, I understood it. I feel like I like OverSimplified. It really gets it in. Because I like history. I enjoy history. It's the politics where I get lost.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Not because I'm dumb. I just struggle to kind of naturally grasp it. But I understand it.
No, OverSimplified is very... he's very clever in the way he does things. The humour keeps you engaged.
Yeah.
The animations are interesting.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're learning, the information just sinks in freely, doesn't it?
Yeah, you just enjoy learning about it, which, and I'm excited to see part 2.
Yeah, we'll do part 2 tomorrow, by the way. That'll be up tomorrow.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I'm actually glad I come back and watched it again.
Oh yeah, did you forget some of it?
I'm not... It's one of them ones where it's like... The first time I watched it, I got the general gist of everything that happened. It would have been impossible for me to remember names and dates specifically, do you know what I mean? But when you see people, you're like, oh, Ely, that's where he comes in. That's when Grant comes in and all that. You start to remember everything. But, let us know. Do you want us to carry on with OverSimplified? Or throw in other stuff as well, Family Guy and other shows and stuff like that. But it's just, it just depends what you guys want to see.
I'm down.
Enjoy it. Peace out, guys. Take it easy, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.